up and let's do a roll call to make sure that see who all we have on the board.
Perfect. I just started recording, so everyone knows this meeting will be recorded. It is recording now.
Okay, have we started then?
Yes, whenever you open it up.
All right, well, I'll kick off the meeting. And as Corla said, I do want to say to everybody, remind them that we are recording the meeting. So anything you say will be recorded and then we'll post this on our YouTube channel. Thanks to Paul Grimes. So Paul, thank you for doing that. And then Corla, if you could maybe just do a roll call of the board members, just to make sure we see who we have and how many we have and that we have a quorum.
Okay. How do you want me to do that? Just,
Well, you can just read off the names, I guess. You can
All
say,
right. I don't really have a list, but Dawn is here.
all right.
Don Severance, Jim Hare, Lucky Morrison, Mark Krensick, Margaret Barissimo, Fred Cosmo, Eva Schmidt, Robert Jackson, Mandy Havlick, David Dick, and myself. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's 11, I think, unless I can't.
We only have 12.
Yeah, so that's right. That's perfect. That's exactly what.
Okay, we're just missing Brad.
Brad, yeah, he's, I spoke to him. He's not.
Okay, well, we have a quorum, so we're going to start. So the first order of business, I want to get the agenda approved. And so I distributed the agenda to everybody. Everybody's had an opportunity to review it. The only thing I would change on the agenda is that I would reorder the first board initiated action item, the appointment of a PCPB secretary, put that up at the top of the agenda so we can get a new secretary to take minutes during the meeting. So with that, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion with your suggested edit to the agenda.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, Robert, thank you. All those in favor?
Don, yes.
Don, yes. Okay, perfect. Unanimous, it passes. Perfect. All right, well then let's go to that. Now that it's approved, I think the first action item is then to get a new secretary. It's a board position, so it's a very sought after position. We're very happy for Sarah, right? She's got a position now with the mayor's office, so we're sorry to see her leave, but now we have an opening. So I will open it up. Is there anybody who's interested or wants to nominate somebody? Now would be the time.
I would like to nominate Mandy.
I would be willing to take the nomination if there's no other contenders for the job.
Thank you.
But thank you, Lucky.
All right.
Okay, do we have any other nominations?
I'll second Mandy.
We got a second on Mandy. Any other nominations? All right, seeing none, I think Mandy is our candidate. So all those in favor of making Mandy the new PCPB secretary, say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
All right, you're unanimous, Mandy.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Woo!
Now the work starts.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, so now you get to take notes and you'll be able to do the minutes for this meeting. Do we have any minutes from the last meeting? I don't think I ever saw any. I don't know if Sarah ever did those.
Well, I don't know, and I didn't even think about it.
Yeah, so I don't think we have any from the last meeting to do it.
Yeah, as long as we have a recording, I can write those up too if needed.
Well, thank you, Mandy. That would be very helpful.
All right.
On the officer report, I don't want to bloviate for too long because I think we got a lot of things to talk about. But as a president, I still think that the PCPB is doing very well. The planning board's been active in the community. We're caught up on project review. The committees are meeting and the organization seems to be functioning well. So I'm very happy about that. And obviously, the big news is that we finally got some guidance from the city on the elections. We'll be talking about that later. So, and I think that's a healthy thing because personally, I thank David and I thank Jim. I know that they may not have necessarily wanted to hang around, but they kept us with a quorum and they've been good with sports through the last year, so I really, really appreciate their help. But, be nice to get some new blood. So with that's what I got for the president's report. And unless there's any questions, David, you won't got anything as vice chair?
No, we'll wait until we talk about the election.
Okay. And Mandy, you're the secretary. You got a secretary's report?
Hey, guess who the new secretary for the PCPB is? Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yes. Thank you.
Doing great so far.
Yeah, perfect. All right. Tony Kempton is not here, so we're going to go to non-agenda public comment. Corla, do we got any of that?
I don't really have anything.
Do we want to talk about that halfway house?
Yeah, Robert, we got Margaret got her hand up first. So Margaret, do you want to say something?
Okay.
There's a couple things going on. It looks like the city's pushing forward to open up business operational permits for outdoor again, which is good news. There's a couple meetings coming up. There's a webinar that's open up to businesses. I would highly recommend, if you know a business owner, attend this meeting. It is on January 26th. They're going to go into full detail about how safe protocols for local businesses in our communities, how they can open up and kind of give you a big, huge overhead update on that stuff. So I think I emailed you guys the link. If I didn't, I'll put it in chat, but that's a good one to attend. And then there was another city memo again. This was for immediate release on Wednesday, January 20th, that the city of San Diego launches outreach efforts to make temporary outdoor dining spaces safer and more accessible for the communities. So lots of updates coming up soon. So I'll share those with the group and we can hopefully share them with the community. I've also been visiting local businesses in Point Loma and helping them out by doing live feeds on my personal community pages I manage. That's been helping quite a bit, showcasing them on there to get, the community to support the small mom and pops in our own local community of Point Loma. So that's been really helpful as well. That's it for me.
Okay. Well, thank you, Margaret. Yeah, and I think obviously keeping our local businesses going is important. Restaurants, Miguel's was slow tonight, so they were happy to see me. So I think it's good for all of us to help them out. Robert, did you want to make a comment?
No, as I mentioned in my email, I think everybody is, Rob Rogerson stopped by and was concerned because of some publications on Nextdoor that there was a couple halfway houses opening up somewhere around Oleander and Poinsettia. I did a scan of homes that have sold, and looks like only two over there. Was one on Marquette and one on Wisteria. Marquette is large enough to fit that mold, but I just wasn't sure if that was within our preview. I remember as chair of PLA, there was one opened up on the 3100 block of Dumas, and apparently there was cars getting broken into, crime went up, there was nighttime activity, and when Lori Zapp's office was investigating, the do's and don'ts, it vacated and the home was sold. So I don't know if this is something that we need to watch out for, or how something like this is policed, or what the legalities are.
What is the licensing and permitting requirements for that sort of thing?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know if there's a zoning or not. I know there's, these senior homes that are around here. There's one on Liggett. There's as an, in lieu of a convalescent facility. But I guess there's more concern with these, obviously, because they could, breed more problematic activities.
Yeah.
It'll be worse than the Courier house across the street from you, Dave.
Did Rob say how he knew?
Next door.
He picked it up from next door?
Yeah, on some chat.
Okay.
And I have not tried to, investigate that, but yeah.
That's where I get all my election fraud information. So that's.
Well, Robert, I think we should keep an eye on it. And I got a message from Monique from Jen Campbell's office. At the last second that she's not going to make it, but I think that Jen Campbell's office is definitely somebody. If there's problems, that's where you got to go for that.
Right, right.
There are a considerable number of preemptions in law with regards to adult care and limitations on numbers that come down from the state, as well as zoning requirements. So again, it needs to be looked into. We may not get the answer we want, though.
Right.
All right. Does anybody else want to make a non-agenda public comment?
I do. I just wanted to let everyone know that the Peninsula chapter of Kate's Sessions commitment for tree planting has started and kickstarted. So if you're interested in purchasing a tree or donating a tree to the community, either here in D2 or in another underserved community, D4, you can go to katestrees.org to find out more information about that initiative. I'll put the email address in the chat for you all.
Okay.
That's all
Thank
I
you.
have.
Any other non-agenda public comment? All right, well, we'll move on then to government reports. And we have a new representative on behalf of Nora Vargas's office. That would be Andrew Harvey. So Andrew, you're here, and if you want to make a presentation, and if people have questions, then we'll ask you some. But welcome to the Peninsula Community Planning Board, and let us know what's going on.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here this evening. I'm Andrew Harvey. I'm a community rep under Supervisor Nora Vargas. So it's a third week in office, so I don't have too much to weigh on, but it's really excited to hit the ground running and to be here. I live off of Santa Cruz. So I'm in the area, so it's exciting to be involved. And my former boss was a rep for Marty Block, and this was his area, so he had really great things to say. And so I'm going to put my contact info in the chat, and if anyone needs to reach out to the office of Supervisor Vargas, please feel free to get in touch with me.
Okay, well, we're very happy to have you here, and we appreciate it. So yeah, anything that you have that Supervisor Vargas thinks is important, send it to me, and I'll distribute it to the board. And if Supervisor Vargas ever wants to come and speak to the planning board, we'd always, welcome her, and she could have a little time to tell us, issues that are important to her.
Of course, Fred. Thank you. I'll let her know.
Does anybody have any other questions for Andrew? All right. How about DK? We like Midway, and we were on a call with last week with the leader. So give us a little update as what's going on in the Midway district.
Yeah, good evening. I'm glad you like Midway. I definitely love my friends and my neighbors over there in the peninsula. I don't know that I have necessarily a comment or a report. It is good to participate in that general peninsula, OB Midway Point Loma planning meeting that we do on Fridays once a month. We had actually our Midway meeting yesterday though, and I suppose the highlights from our community planning group meeting was we had a presentation from the Parks and Recreation Coalition, some folks who are very concerned about the residual parks component of the complete communities plan that came up in the last administration. I don't know that that is a focal point of the current mayoral administration, but they came and presented to us, and we took no action, but at the same time, I think it was actually really interesting to kind of just get a sense for some of the issues that are now in our community. Yeah, it was good.
How about with the new development? Is there any news on that?
With respect to the sports union, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, the last, most recent update that I had from the sports union folks, I did recognize that Zach Adams from the Brookfield group, which was selected by the Faulkner administration, he was at our Midway meeting yesterday. He didn't say anything. He was kind of just there to pay attention, I suppose. But the last substantive update that I had was that they are looking to get on the schedule, the calendar of the new administration, so they can actually get into the substantive lease negotiations with the city, right? And I see Cody is here from the mayor's office, and maybe he can speak more definitively or authoritatively to what the new administration's timeline is. But my understanding from the Brookfield's point of view is that they're still sort of looking to engage in specific lease negotiations with the city. You know, the lease that they ultimately wind up signing with the city will specify the number of units, you know, the specific park acreage, all the actual nitty gritty of what their project entails. And so to my understanding, as of, I think I had a meeting with them the first week of December, or excuse me, of January, so about 2 weeks ago. Like I said, they've still not really put pen to paper on any sort of specific terms. It's still undecided as to whether they will ultimately build a new arena or refurbish the existing arena. Obviously, we were successful with the Measure E effort, so they have all of the capacity to do whatever it is that they think that they need to do. But as far as the most recent update, they're just looking to truly, like I said, set in on whatever terms the city will mandate from them, and that will then subsequently, you know, dictate what they wind up looking to do on their end of this side of the partnership.
Do you have any questions for DK? Margaret, why don't you go ahead?
DK, I'm so sorry I missed the meeting yesterday. I really enjoy attending those Midway meetings. I do have a question in regards to the safety of the Midway area. It seems like it's increasing pretty heavily on a daily basis overnight. And there was a really big, recent incident down there. And it seems that a lot of neighbors on social media are talking about their safety going into that area to shop. Is that, and I didn't really see any of that on your agendas recently. Is that something you guys are talking about or discussing or can put on your future agendas to address so that way we can share with surrounding neighborhoods?
I think I am aware of what it is that you're referring to. As far as the agendas, like you said, you know, those are public. I don't know that we've taken up an info or action item specifically regarding safety in the Midway District. I do know that there have been a number of different incidents. You know, we're all sort of active on various forms of social media, whether it's Nextdoor, Facebook, or what have you. With respect to the community planning group itself, though, that's not an item that we have taken up, but certainly open to having that conversation. You know, it's interesting that since transitioning, I suppose, to this virtual format almost a year ago now, the police department, I don't think have actually participated on any of our community planning group calls. You know, they typically did, and I'll give them credit, you know, they did used to, you know, pop in every other, maybe every third meeting and physically come and give their reports. But frankly, and honestly, I don't think that I've seen representation from San Diego Police Department on any of our community planning group meetings in this virtual format. So going back to like April of last year. It is a concern certainly of mine and my family and my roommates and the folks, you know, who I consider neighbors here. But from a community planning group standpoint specifically, no, we've not necessarily discussed that issue.
The reason why I was asking is I don't know where it would go besides your group, because it's like you said, they used to come to our meetings and give us updates, you know, Officer Cerullo, but he's kind of like dropped off the face of the earth, even with reporting local stuff. He was really good and hands-on. So it's a little concerning because we have, you know, unusual activity happening in Point Loma and then also Ocean Beach. It's kind of nice to get those updates and, you know, be aware.
At the very least, it's good to know when shift
neighborhoods,
changes. Yeah, it's always nice to know when shift changes. I think that's Officer Cerullo's typical sort of run and gun show. But no, yeah, I agree. And to be honest, I don't know that sort of the issue or the, you know, I guess the increasing intensity of safety issues and whether they're violent crimes, whether they're sort of petty theft, whatever the sort of designation of the thing is. I don't know that that's something that goes into a land use community planning thing. Like, I'm happy to have that conversation. We did, at the very least, to your point, used to get at least some level of engagement from the police department. But frankly, like I said, we've not heard from those folks in some time as a community planning group. And so it's certainly something that is of note, and it's something that I certainly keep track of. You know, that the shooting that I think you're referring to is 100 yards from where I'm sitting right now, not too far away from where I live here in Midway. So it's certainly an issue in my community, but yeah, we've not really engaged on that issue as a community planning group.
Well, I appreciate that. I'd like to see Officer Cerullo or another representative be here, because I always thought that the sort of the community comments that we gave them sort of helped them in their policing efforts and sort of the concerns of the communities.
Yeah.
Maybe we
What I-
should
what
ask
I
Tony
will-
Kempton to invite him to the next meeting.
Yeah, do they come together?
Always a good idea.
Yeah.
I'll certainly give credit though to I think Josh Coyne is your representative as well. As I know he's the representative for the Midway District, and Josh is always very responsive to whatever issues. So when I bring things to his attention, I know that at the very least the city is aware of what we're doing. But there is a disconnect, obviously, with the council office and the police department. And those are sort of different, jurisdictions. Those different bodies have different prerogatives, and so. Credit to Josh and the D2 office, but yeah, on the safety component, like I said, it's not something that we've taken up at the community planning group level.
Well, DK, thank you for the report. We appreciate it. I also want to introduce, we have a new representative on behalf of the mayor's office, Koda Zaire. I don't know if I'm saying that exactly right, but he's brand new, but really happy. I don't know if you know this, but the turning point in the whole election was when Mayor Gloria, or then a candidate Gloria, came to our planning board and made a little presentation. So at that point, but we were happy to have him here. And we're happy to have him here. So if you have a report.
Yes, I do. Thank you guys for having me. As Fred said, my name is Koda Zeiser. I'm the District 2 and District 3 community rep for Mayor Gloria. So looking forward to being more present in the community and at your guys' meetings. Just a few quick updates. Last week, Mayor Gloria gave his inaugural State of the City address this past Wednesday. If you didn't get a chance to watch or listen to it, let me know and I can send you the link to watch it now. And then on December 31st, Mayor Gloria signed an executive order to more strongly enforce already existing public health guidelines put forth by the state and the county. Essentially just gives leeway to SDPD and the city's attorney's office to fine folks up to $1,000 that are blatantly in non-compliance. And then finally is the SDG and E franchise agreement that was set to expire in mid-January. And we secured a 6-month extension for new council members to kind of catch up on the issue, as well as council offices to do extensive community outreach before we choose a utility provider. So I believe D2 will be reaching out to schedule a time for that type of presentation to kind of go over what the details of each of the franchise agreement would be. And then just today, we announced that we are proposing an ordinance to council next week, $42 million for rent relief for folks that are residents as well as business owners, essentially really just kind of continuing a lot of the rent protections that were already in place from the previous administration that were set to sunset at the end of this month and in the coming months. So that is going to council next week. I hope to have a more official press release once that gets approved, but just so you guys know that that is in the works right now. I'll be putting my contact info in the chat, but more than happy if you guys have time to take any questions right now as well.
The one question I have is that since you stole Sarah away and put her on the committee to help, small businesses, survive in the pandemic. Is there any update from the mayor's office on what steps we're taking to help out small businesses?
Yeah, so we have a few executive orders or ordinances that we're going to put forth essentially to waive a lot of the permitting fees for folks. Folks who maybe are entertainment fees, for example, is one. Essentially, they're not entertaining folks right now, right? They can't do outdoor dining, they can't host events, and it doesn't really make too much sense to repay a $4,000 fine or a permit fee when you can't even operate. So we're looking at basically licenses and registrations that are set to expire and either suspending them or just giving credit for this upcoming year. But essentially for us, Sarah's doing a lot of great work, meeting with the task force, Back to Work SD. She's been great for our office, and I apologize for inconveniences from stealing from you guys. But yeah, those are kind of the works that right now, at least in the immediate sense, is all the permits that were set to expire in January and February for folks, either waiving them or finding some type of suspension so folks don't have to repay fine or permitting fees essentially.
Okay. And any other questions for Koda?
In the chat, Koda, please.
Yes, yeah, of course. I can do that right now. Yeah, guys, I'll put my email and cell phone in the chat. Anytime you guys have questions, concerns, input, please feel free to reach out to me directly.
Okay, well, thank you, Koda.
Thank you, Fred.
And Tracy, our friends in Ocean Beach, I thought I saw a fire in your kitchen earlier, but I don't know if you have time to talk now.
It wasn't a fire, definitely wasn't a fire. all these meetings seem to happen around dinner time, so I'm always cooking or eating. So anyways, the only thing I have to report for OB is that we are proceeding with our elections. There will be vacancies, of course. You know, every district has somebody that is running or is, you know, going for election. There is one district that doesn't have anybody as far as I know, and that is the war zone. So our District 1, we did have a gentleman that was there, but he resigned a few months ago. So that is an actual open seat that I know of. And then everybody else I think is rerunning for election, but of course, you know, anybody is welcome to run for election. Before we actually got the announcement from the city on the policy changes, we were just gonna plan and do this on our own. And we were going to do mail-in votes, ballot box drops, and we actually have a friend in the OB Town Council who's gonna set up a electronic voting system for us. So it's something that he does just for a living, and he said that he would be happy to help us out. So yeah, we're gonna have 3 ways of voting this year, and it's gonna be exciting.
Tracy, how are you paying for that?
He's donating it to us.
No, I don't mean that. I mean like postage and other expenses associated with the procedures and the like.
Yeah, so we don't pay for stamps or anything or paper. We just basically make PDFs of everything and let people do their own thing. You know, if they want to.
So the idea is you post your ballot on your website.
Yep.
People go to the website and pull the ballot down.
Yep.
Fill out the ballot, send it in or drop it off at a drop box.
Correct.
What are you doing in terms of validating this kind of maybe? Are you gonna stick around for the rest of the meeting? We could talk about this when we talk about our election.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd be happy to share like our forms and stuff with you so that you could see how, you know, we're planning it. We've actually simplified it a lot this year. Our forms used to be really like crazy complicated, but we've made it more simple. So I can stick around after the meeting and
No, we have a spot on the meeting agenda where we're going to talk about this. So if you if you're around, we'll talk about it then. I don't want to.
Yeah, you know what? And I can actually, I'll shoot the forms to Corla too, so that she can kind of like have them while we're talking. But yeah, so if you know anybody in OB who's interested in being on our planning board, now's the time to do it.
War zone, like the sound of that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thanks.
Okay, well, we get that ready. We're gonna go to Mark. I think we've hit all the government agencies. Mark, maybe we can do our first and only project review project.
Surely. Thank you, Fred. Mark Krensick here with Peninsula Project Chair. First, I want to give Paul Grimes a shout out. Thanks, Paul, for all the work you've done over the many years on the board here. Appreciate all the background work. And we can move right into the only project that we did review here this month in project review. This is project PTS 674989. It's the 797 Amherst Drive, which is a development permit to build a second-story addition over a 1,350 square foot house. This second-story addition is 1,400 square feet, but also spans over the garage and reconstructs the garage. We looked at this and unanimously we approved this 4-0 this last month. We took no exceptions to setbacks, FAR, coverage. There was no blockage of any neighbor views. The project is before us because it is located adjacent to the college, Point Loma Nazarene, which requires coast development permit because it falls under the first public roadway definition. We do have Bruce Peeling here, and if no one objects, I would say that we could move this one fairly quickly forward and just make a recommendation without looking at anything unless somebody wants to see a plan or a 3D graphic that we do have. And Bruce can answer any questions. It's up to you guys.
Bruce, do you have anything you wanted to add about your project?
I actually missed the last portion of that because one of those giant planes just flew over from North Island. So I'm just here to answer questions. As I had mentioned to the architectural review committee, it was just, we had never realized we were going to be a coastal project when we started this, and we did a significant 50+% saving on it, assuming that it would not have to go through coastal. And being on the east side of Amherst, the crazy thing is I actually did the house across the street and down one on the west side of Amherst, which was not considered coastal because of the 50% rule. But on the east side it was, because our eastern boundary is the campus, which makes it beachfront. So,
All right.
but otherwise, I mean, ordinarily you wouldn't see a project like this. That it was just a technicality that got snagged in the process. So here we are.
Okay.
If anybody has any questions.
Do we have any questions for Mark or for Bruce?
Move approval.
It's a nice project. It's a single family. They're not renting out or any kind of thing. They're adding on a master suite onto a private property, and it's a nice project.
Move approval.
Okay, I got a motion by David and
I'll second.
a second by Robert. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of the
Here we
project,
go.
raise your hand.
Don, yes.
Brett, I need to
I can't see-
recuse myself.
I can't
I know
see
the
you.
homeowner, so
What's that, Eva?
I need to recuse myself. I know the homeowner, they're family friends, so I don't think I should be voting.
Okay, that's fine. All right, well then I think everybody's a yes and Eva is an abstention. Perfect.
A process question with regards to projects coming from project review. If it's possible, could we get like a one-page PDF that has some kind of depiction of projects? So we have some, I mean, I familiarized myself with the site and everything, but it would have been handy to have something that kind of depicts it a little bit, just so you get a sense of the scale of things. But I don't think it was necessary on this one, but for future projects, maybe that might be something easy to do. Thanks, Mark.
Sure, Jim. I think it is a good point. I will try to skid out a little PDF at the beginning of the week once we get the agenda set for everybody, like anybody else on the agenda.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mark. We just have a couple of informational items, and on this one.
Oh, am I done? Sorry.
You're done, Bruce. You passed.
Okay, I had another plane go over, so I didn't hear the final tally.
Congratulations. You
It's a busy
guys
night.
got it unanimously with one abstention.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody.
Squeaked by.
Night. Have fun.
So on the informational items, it seems like there is a lot going on at the CPC, and so I thought we put this on here before we got the election update. So I think we should move that part of it down to part of the election discussion maybe, but I thought that we should have Corla give a report on CPC stuff, and that way we could have some discussion on it and give her some guidance for the meeting next week. So Corla, do you want to take it over?
I sent that long email out. It's like, I don't know, 50 pages or something. And basically, this is just a result of the grand jury report from 2018. And there are just some changes as a result of that. The city didn't believe, and there have been complaints, I guess, that the planning groups are not diverse enough, and we're not including renters and that kind of stuff. So on April 18th, the grand jury report came out, and basically for us, it just makes some suggestions, but there's not a whole lot that would change things for us. Mark had some comments, and I'll let him make those if he wants to, and they're on pages 8 of 10, and the stuff that was in red Fred gave me credit for that. I didn't do that. That's how it came to me. And I think that's how the city does it. They strike out and then what they add in red. So that's all done by the city. CPC will be discussing this on Tuesday, and the chair hasn't sent this information out. So thank you, Fred. It's nice that we got that ahead for our meeting, so I can take comments back to them. But Mark, do you want to talk about how that implicates project review, or do you want me to do it?
Well, Corla, I looked at this again, and most of the information that we see here is kind of old information, meaning it's been around for about a year now. Some of the diversity and some of the community, demographics is kind of the same that they talked about, and also the having a renter be on the board is something that the board needs to write into their bylaws at some point if that's what we want. But it's worth discussing it because I think it's important, to have a renter represented as a permanent seat on the board. The other things were just really kind of minor ticky-tacky things. I thought it was interesting because they requested that we take better notes of how many times a project has come before project review and put it in the former document that we send back to the city. I thought that was just kind of unusual. How many times did you review it? Like it would make a difference. Maybe we were just trying to make things better, and it's not a negative, it's a positive. But they want to know. So that was all I drug out of that.
Well, I also noted, and you had mentioned this to me before, so I went back and reread it, that project review must submit their recommendations within 7 days. I don't know if that's a new requirement or not, and that would be a new duty for a chair of that committee. So that's kind of what I gleaned out of there as well. I mean, you're all welcome to read it, and if anybody has any comments or anything they want me to take to CPC about any of that, or anything you want me to take to CPC, let me know, and I will.
Yeah, Corla, the city has actually created a form now that's online, since they've been going to more online for the CPCs and our recommendations. So I've been using that now over the last couple months. And we used to wait for our meeting minutes to come out to actually document the meetings. Well, if we have the meeting minutes, available, great. If we don't, we have a video. If we don't, I take notes. And I've been trying to send those back within a certain, quicker time frame because, that's what they've asked us to do. So, but they made it easier with a form that's online.
Well, DSD is virtual now, so everything's all online. I don't think we're going to do much paperwork from now on. So that's another big.
Well, let's hope now. I've got a ton of it here. Still have lots,
Does anybody have anything for me to take to CPC, or any questions or anything we need to bring up for them?
All right, use your discretion. All right, the other informational item.
I'm sorry, did I miss it? When's the next meeting?
I think it's next Tuesday.
It's Tuesday.
Thank you.
I haven't got the link yet, and I'll send it to you, Margaret, when I get it.
Yeah, the other informational item, and I think Margaret helped send this information around, but it was we had the airport Part 150 workshop, which was today. It already happened, so it's a little bit of past news, but I thought it was, I think that the Part 150 study, the workshops, the airport, and all that is important for the community. So I wanted to make sure to get it on our agenda so that people looked on our website, they could see it in advance. So, and I appreciate people sending out the links for that. So that's moving along. I know that I talked to some of the local leaders that were going to participate in that today, and there's going to be a series of further meetings over the next 3 to 4 or 5, 6 months, and before the final Part 150 recommendations are going to be completed. So the process is going to be ongoing, and we will continue to give people updates. So, and with that, I think we get to turn to the big
Fred,
item.
really quickly.
The agenda. Oh, Mark, do you have a question?
Yeah, I don't know who we're going to talk to about this, but there's plans for the expansion to go into, like, what I've been hearing, to that whole spa war area. And I mean, it's just talks of, I know DK, you probably heard a little bit too for Midway, I don't know, but I think we need more information from our city representatives on, they've got the plans on MCRD's renovations and the plans for that to get kind of done up. And I think the airport is going to be a big part of those two properties. And I feel like we're going to be notified when it's kind of just the plans are done, you know, and over with. So I don't know, as a chair, if there's anything you can do for us to kind of get, you know, some of that information to us ahead of time. Because I know they're already planning and meeting and discussing those plans, and it definitely involves the
Yeah,
airport.
we've seen some of that, and I can try to get more information and maybe.
I'd
and I can
appreciate that.
educate us more, but my general understanding right there, the airport, if you go down Harbor Drive, they are continuing to move forward with the Terminal 1 expansion. And so
That's
the
fine.
Terminal 1 expansion is happening, and
I'm most concerned with
and I think that
the Pacific
their
Highway.
idea is that they're going to complete that while volume is down and make that better. And there is going to be some type of link between Terminal 1 and Spa War, which is going to be the transportation hub. And that's the part that we've seen the presentations on. So Spa War is going to be a transportation hub, and I've seen different things, but one of them is, you know, an underground tunnel under the
Right.
runway to get
Mhm.
passengers from Terminal 1 and Terminal 2 over there to the hub, and the other one is more of a bus system to move people over there. But
Right. And that was just some of the things that, because I've been kind of going into some of the Liberty Station meetings as well. And they're super concerned because of the post DK. I don't know if you've got any information about that development and the concerns with, you know, how you get off Barnett. And I mean, that is a really busy exit for Point Loma, you know, folks, and then Liberty Station and Midway. A lot of people use that, and it's super backed up right now. It's super scary on the weekends. So if it's getting that crazy on the weekends, I can't imagine like during the week when everyone goes back to work. So again, we're kind of like out of the loop how that post development is going to, you know, fit in with the traffic concerns with Midway and the Spa War and the MCRD developments. And we just really haven't heard much from our city representatives. So a little bit more information would be helpful.
What's the MCRD development? I haven't heard anything about MCRD being developed.
I haven't heard anything about that either. I've just heard that Spa War is going to be the transportation hub. And
Yeah, I maybe have like a couple just contextual points maybe that I can buttress this conversation with. Speaking, I suppose, specifically to the old post office that is being redeveloped into primarily an office hub section, I think that is something that has gone through, you know, the permitting process and review and all that like many years ago. That was well before anything was in. So I think they actually just started demolition of the previous post office space maybe in September, October of this past year. I don't know the quite, you know, the square footage or the office count, the specifics off the top of my head with respect to that. But to my knowledge, I don't know that there is necessarily a traffic mitigation program or anything that's built into that. Frankly, that was actually something that went through the process even before I came involved 3 years ago with my Midway Planning Committee. So I can't speak too much to, I guess, the origins or the plans for that project. I've certainly seen the plans and they look nice, but as far as, you know, digital renderings go. But yeah, same with the Spawar, Navwar site. In my conversations with Sandag and the Navy and the briefings that we've had the Midway group, and then also just in my sort of day job, we have, I mean, what they tell us, Sandag and the Navy, is that they're still just exploring potential opportunities. Fred, you're correct that, you know, the intent, this sort of signaled intent seems to certainly be around connecting public transit to the airport. My most recent conversation with the folks at Sandag is that technically, specifically, the Navy has not formally agreed with any one or sort of committed to any one of, I think, 5 different potential configurations of what that connection to the airport to the transit looks like. They're sort of still going through the process, but for the last almost 2.5 years, you know, they've clearly been, you know, working towards this ultimate outcome, right? I think even as now mayor, but then assembly member Gloria, when he was still at the state assembly, he authored a bill just this past cycle that had to do with sort of CEQA streamlining to help I suppose, speed up the process by which Navarre can become that transit hub. So it certainly seems as though that's the plan, but sort of, officially, and Margaret, to your point, we are still sort of just working with what the powers that be want to give us as far as information goes. Officially, there is no formal project or plan. It's just what they've been, in my opinion, blatantly signaling for the last couple of years that we have to go off of.
I see Cameron's hand. Cameron, do you have a question?
I just had something to add to the conversation. Over the summer, Mayor Faulkner and the Secretary of Defense signed a memorandum of understanding for the development of the Spey-War Navarre site that was signed. DK is correct. There wasn't any one particular proposal. I know there's several different codes of action that they looked at, but there is a memorandum of understanding signed between our ex-mayor and the Secretary of Defense. As far as MCRD goes, I just because of my affiliation, I am not the official spokesperson. I can only tell you what I've gotten secondhand. I can tell you that the Marine Corps is looking to consolidate its boot camps from having 2 on each coast to 1. If they do consolidate that to 1, then MCRD would potentially be turned over to the city. There was a discussion of MCRD being turned back over to the city at the same time, based on FOIA requests, at the same time as they signed the memorandum of understanding on the Navarre Spa-War site. So MCRD, there's some potential there at some point. I don't know how much is for public consumption, how much isn't, or if there's anything other than that, but I do know it was discussed between the 2 individuals. What was said, I don't know. And I am not privy to any long-term planning on that side of it. I just know of what I just told you guys. So that's all I have.
Lucky, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I had a question about the viability of being able to develop a second runway system if MCRD goes away and becomes city property.
I mean, my understanding is that that was a big holdup that potentially if the city did get that property, potentially they could put a second runway in.
And of course, that would have tremendous impact on at least ways in the area that I live in. It's a direct overflight area. So if they could gun those back to back, it would just be in keeping with the expected output of the first terminal, then that could change the entire game plan out here on the point.
That's absolutely correct.
And actually, the alignment of the second runway, which would be the takeoff runway, would be a takeoff alignment that would go further to the north and go over basically Mission Bay. Whereas the landing runway would basically be the current runway. And you think that the current Rule 150 and all the other stuff coming with next gen and all that, you think that was controversial? Just wait till they try to put a second runway in.
Yeah, I hear you. But from one standpoint, and you give me a good perspective on that, David, takeoff runways are much louder than landing runways.
Certainly if you're on the opposite end of the landing runway.
Yeah, I just noticed when the fog comes in and they land from the west, the noise of those planes is much diminished from the takeoff because they don't have the weight of thrust and everything going on takeoff and trying to overcome gravity as much. So,
yep.
So I guess I'm saying I have no idea what that mixed bag would be, positive, negative, or how that might totally impact whatever mission day.
So I think what we've concluded here is that right now it's all speculation.
Yes. Yeah.
I guess fair. I will report. I don't know if I can't remember the timing, but the last ANAC meeting was in December, and at that point, the latest news was that operations are down 65%, and passengers down about the same. So, I think actually it was passengers are down 65%, and operations are down 50%. So, that seems to be the diminished capacity for now. All right. Any more airport questions? Love it when people care about the airport.
You know, one thing, Fred, just real quick, if anybody's interested, because I just went and looked, the website for the Post project is actually postcoastal.com. If you want to see what they're planning to do there, it's pretty interesting. It is all office no residential.
Well, and I find that interesting. So they passed that before, probably before COVID, right? I mean, it seems hard to imagine that people need to build more office space now, but
Yeah.
They're
just-
building,
I mean,
they are building millions of square feet of, there's millions of square feet of office planned for downtown in large footprint floor plate configuration. And that's exactly what this is.
Yeah, and to DK's comment a moment ago about when this project was processed through, that's actually just consistent with zoning. There wasn't much in the way of planning on that one because all of the uses there were simply consistent with the underlying zoning. So it's a building permit.
Yeah, but the new updates to the Muni Code are allowing for residential in those commercial spaces now. So
Yeah,
that-
no, that and I guess what I'm the message is that with the fact that the ink is barely dry on the Midway Pacific Corridor Community Plan, that there are very useful measures and benchmarks in that plan in terms of the capacities that are associated with all of those properties. So when we're talking about future traffic, there has been a projection of future traffic based on the development of those parcels. Doesn't include MCRD, but the other ones we've been talking about are factored into that. Now, whether or not they adhere to those benchmarks as time comes through, they will at least need to talk about the delta between whatever ends up ultimately being proposed and what the benchmarks in the plan are.
And also, Jim, I think surrounding developments are gonna have to be considered in this too.
Sure.
You know, like Riverwalk, that's gonna add a whole lot of traffic in that area for
Yep.
people shopping, et cetera.
Yep.
all right. That was a nice discussion. I appreciate that. So I am going to move on, David, to elections. So I think that's a topic that may take a little time maybe. So
Well, actually, I don't know that it will, because Tracy, if you're still around, thank you very much for sending that information, which Corla forwarded on. Oh, there you are, right in the middle. You're in the Paul Lind spot in there. I'm dating myself here, but the celebrity, what is that? What was that show called? I can't remember now, but
Hollywood
anyway,
Squares.
Hollywood
What was it?
Squares.
Yeah, Hollywood Squares, exactly.
I'm a game show nerd.
Yeah, that was a good one. And you're in
I
the
can
Paul
tell
Lind
you the
spot
people
right
that
now.
I'm seeing on my screen here who don't know what that is. I
Right.
You can find out. Yeah, I'm sure that all the under 40s or under 50s probably have no clue what we're talking about. And they're all chatting with each other right now about the old fogies. Anyway, Tracy, thank you so much for sending that. It actually looks very simple. You've got a registration form. Anyway, just to back up, the city has finally come out with some recommendations. And basically it's sort of funny, what the recommendations are is go ahead and have an election and do it as safely as possible. And it's up to you how to do that, but don't have anybody in person. And so Tracy, just real quickly scanning what you guys have done in OB, looks to me like you've got a registration form where somebody fills out and says, yeah, I'm an eligible voter in this election. Here's the proof. They send in a copy of their driver's license or their utility bill or any other sorts of things that we use. There is a ballot. There's a form for the candidates to fill out. I suppose we would have a candidates forum sort of kind of like this. And people will mail in, drop in, maybe even email in their ballot. I haven't looked at it that closely. And there is a process for the election committee to tabulate the results at the time of the March election, or at the March meeting, I think it was. Maybe it was it was the March. I'd have to go back and look. There were some specifics in there about when you tabulate, when you announce, when you certify, sort of so forth. Just as long as Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz don't show up, I think we'll be all right. And and it looks to me like it's a pretty simple process. And so what I'd like to do is, I think Mandy and Robert and who else was on the election committee? I can't remember now. Mandy, do you remember, or Robert, do you remember who else was with us on that?
Oh, I was, sorry.
Was it you, Margaret? Yeah, okay, yeah, okay. So I'm gonna, now we have a sort of a rubric of how to go about this. I'm gonna go ahead and convene a meeting and figure out how to do that on Zoom. And in the meantime, I need to study the materials we got from the city a little bit more thoroughly. Look at what Tracy has sent us, which Robert and Mandy and Margaret, I would ask you to take a look at as well.
So is
And
this
I'll try to schedule.
is this a hand count we have to do, or how are they tabulating the votes?
To be determined, I think.
To be determined, okay.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm sure it's a hand tabulation of some kind.
Right.
Somebody's gonna have to go pick up the, you'll put on your hazmat suit and you'll go pick up the ballots. Right. And we'll get whatever gets sent to us over the internet, whatever comes in the mail, I guess to the PO box. The only issue as I see it, and Margaret, I see your hand, I'll get to that in just a sec. The only issue I think that we need to think about, and we could talk about this as a committee, is how we get the word out to people that this is what we're doing. Obviously, we should use PLA, we should use the Beacon, we should use Nextdoor, we should use all the social media options out there to be able to get word out that we're having an election. Also, how do we get word out to people that we have, what's it going to be? It's going to be like 11 seats available, something like that.
That's correct.
And I guess the other question we need to struggle with is, and my sort of orientation on this would be to reopen all of the seats to nomination. It's been so long since we had our candidates. I assume that the candidates who were interested last March will be interested this March, but maybe not. So I think we just kind of reopen it completely. And however many seats we have available, we have an election for those. And hopefully we get enough candidates to fill them all.
Yeah, I'll leave it to you and the committee, David, but I think I agree with that. It seems to me that the whole world's changed since March of last year. So we want to reconfirm that people want to apply, and if people want to get involved, it should be a brand new start, I would think.
Don here.
Can I just say real quick, the city did not mention email in their letter. They said you can only do it by mail, Dropbox, or they suggested 3 different online voting systems. So they didn't mention email, and I think they didn't mention email because of security reasons. Because you're requesting that people send in a driver's license or some kind of proof of ID, you don't really want to have something that is going to be lingering in an email box for a long period of time. With the drop off or the mail, you can get that information and shred it right away, and you don't have to keep it once you confirm it. The person that we're dealing with right now, who is going to help us set up the online system, he's going to build in something so that whoever is monitoring the online votes will look at the proof of residency, and then they will certify it by a check mark. And then once they certify it, that file will be deleted. So none of these like proof of residencies will be on the system forever and ever. They won't live there forever.
Okay, Margaret, you've had a question for a while. Why don't you go ahead?
My only concern, I know that Ocean Beach, first of all, does not have the amount of votes that we have at our elections. It's like, I don't know, from 400 to 500 votes. For us to kind of do your process, we're already there until midnight counting ballots after they've been verified.
Right. So
it's going to be
the online system will tally it for yourself, for you. The online system will tally everything. So you'll have those results right away. So hopefully you'll get a lot of people who really don't want to come and vote in person by dropping something off or mailing it, and they'll utilize the online system mostly, and then that would save a lot of time for you. But
a lot of our voters are not in that age group that have internet. That some don't.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably going to lose a lot of people anyways, because they don't want to go to the post office or a Dropbox. They don't want to go outside. You're probably going to lose a lot of your normal voters anyways. And I don't even know how to address that because, you know, fear is fear, right? But if they have, you know, a grandkid who can show them how to use the internet for, you know, 5 minutes, then they'll feel safer and they'll be able to vote. So again, you know, yeah, you guys have a lot more people than we do. You know, you will have to do some level of hand counting, but we're going to have one person pick up the ballot box. We're going to have one person in charge of the mail, and those people are going to be doing their counting during our meeting so that we'll be able to have the totals done. So yeah, that's
part of our problem, Tracy, is that we typically will have our counting done by, you know, 2 people, maybe 3, monitoring the process to validate and revalidate the process and the count.
Yeah,
and they'll count the same votes 2-3 times.
Yeah, we use a double count system so that they're accurate. But the problem is the last election when we had 7 people, right? When you have 500 people voting for 700, right, you got to count 3,500 votes. And so if you get 500 people voting for 11 people, you're going to have 5,500 votes. That's a lot.
Yeah. Do you guys typically announce the winner at your meeting?
We did. We did, but last time it took so long to count. It took us a few days to finish up counting.
That was one of the things I need to study and what the city came up with. There was some very specific sort of dates and procedures that they were suggesting in terms of vote here, count here, announce here, certify here. I just don't remember the lineup.
They want you to do the process at the meeting, really. I mean, that's what they want. But I mean, you know, and that's just, it's ridiculous when you're having to count 500 votes. But I have high hopes and, you know, for people to do online voting. I honestly think that the majority of your voters, if you offer them an online system right now, that they'll use it. I think there's enough knowledge of how to operate a browser nowadays. I mean, I have a lot of optimism and high hopes for people. So I may be completely out of my mind, but I always tend to give people a lot more credit than I probably should.
Can you put us in touch with your guy? Do you think he'd be willing to volunteer?
He would, actually. I texted him right before I got online with you guys, and he said he would be willing to do it. So I sent Corla the email address and she can reach out to him.
Corla, you have a question?
Yeah, I have a couple comments. First of all, if we only have 11 candidates for 11 spots, we don't have to have an election. They just slide in. So we just have to wait and see how that candidates forum goes. And secondly, if the city and DSD and courts and everybody else are all virtual, I don't see, my personal opinion, why we have to have any mail or any Dropbox or anything. I think it all should be done virtually. That's how the world works now. And I don't want to disenfranchise anyone, but that's life now. So that's my opinion on those issues.
Ed, if I may say something.
Oh, Dawn.
Yeah, I think for the committee, there is a couple wrinkles. I believe that there'll be 7 seats from last March and 5 seats from the coming. So that would be 12 on my count. I could be mistaken. But I think the committee will need to distinguish some of these seats will be for 2 years and some will be for 3 years.
Sure. I think some of the 7, Don, from last time were actually people in other years, or we already had some of that breakdown. I don't think it can I don't think, unless there's some people who resigned who were not who were in only the first year of their 3-year term, I don't think that it could be more than 10 seats, just by definition.
I think it is 11.
If I may respond to that, I believe we had 2 resignations after the
but what years were
March
they in?
Meeting.
What years were they in? Are they people who were not going to come up until 2022? If there's anybody whose term ends in 2022 who hasn't resigned, that means we've got a total of 10 seats available in the next election. I think that math is inescapable.
Had we had an election this past March, there were going to be 10 candidates for 7 seats.
Okay, that's fine. There were 7 seats, but that's because there were 5 that were coming up in the natural progression and 2 which were the result of resignations.
Correct. And so is there not 5 more coming up?
Yes, but of those 5, 2 of them were people who had resigned. That's my point.
David, David, I think Robert Golden, his term would have ended in 2022. So he's the only person where we would have to fill a vacancy with a 1-year term.
11 then it is. That's my point exactly. If
Yeah.
there's somebody in that category, a 2022 term end who resigned, then that seat is available. You're right. That makes 11. If
But
there's
if-
somebody else in that category, it's 12.
Right, and Scott was expiring in 2021, so he's just a natural seat that's available.
How about Sarah?
I guess you're gonna have to add Sarah to that, so maybe we've.
Well, yeah, I don't know when Sarah's term ended.
That's all on the website. Their terms
Yeah.
are on the website.
Yeah, we'll find.
Her term was 2021 as well.
Okay, so 11.
Oh, go ahead, Eva.
I just wanted to, I disagree a little bit with you, Corla, in terms of, access to voting. And yes, I do believe that, or I'm hopeful that the majority of voters would figure out or be able to maneuver some sort of online system. But I still think mail-in ballots or a drop box should be made accessible for those that want to utilize that option. I don't think we should disenfranchise voters just by method of voting. We may not get very many ballots in a ballot drop box, so we may not get very many by mail, but I still think that should be an option for people.
I appreciate that comment and I understand that. I think I have stuff, and my daughter has stuff that's coming in by mail that was ordered before Christmas. So I don't really trust the postal service right now to do things in a timely manner. And if somebody mails in their what is that controversy going to cause? I sent it in. Did you count it? I don't know. I just, sorry, I'm done.
Well, I'm inclined to lean, I'm going to leave it to the committee, but I would tend to agree with Eva that I think that, there's some people that are going to want to mail it in. So I think giving people the option, and I think David's idea of sending it to the planning board PO box, right? We could actually use that for something worthwhile. That would be a good place. And at least my suggestion to the committee is that it had to be postmarked, before the election. So, and it has to be received within, a day or two out of the election. Otherwise,
the problem with that is going to be the timing of everything. If we're going to have an election, quote unquote, on the 15th of March or whatever that date is in March that we have our meeting, the postmark will have to be a number of days before that. We will undoubtedly, even if people put them in as Corla, I think is absolutely right, people put things in by the postmark date. If we make the postmark date, 7 days, a week before the election date, there will undoubtedly be ones that will straggle in afterward. And then there will also be those people who say, well, why did I have to have it postmarked 7 days before the election? I didn't even know there was an election until the day before the election. I got it in before the election. Why isn't it counted? So there's going to be those issues. We have to sort that out. And I appreciate you saying you're going to leave it to the committee.
Yeah.
The community is actually well versed when it comes to the election. They're all over Nextdoor and social media. They know when it's coming. They know, I think if we give them ample time, once David's committee, our committee situates and gets the word out way ahead of time, and whatever we decide, as far as voting goes, people can start voting, then we could, Fred, when you check the PO box or whomever does that, we could start already kind of gathering those ballots ahead of time. Just setting dates ahead of time, I think, will help with the whole mail process. But you have to kind of, in this day and age, give people options to vote.
There's also no reason we couldn't start counting them before.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking.
You have to do that confidentially.
We added that deadline to the website for candidates forum last year as well, because candidates were coming in at the last minute, like 20 minutes before that candidates forum meeting. And the committee needs time to verify the candidates. So there should be deadlines on the candidate forum application as well.
So there's two things that are going to be absolutely certain about this election. Number one, there are going to be glitches. And number two, there are going to be complaints.
Well, I have faith in the committee that you guys are going to do a good job and you guys are going to treat everybody as fairly and even-handedly as you can. So you have a good committee. I think we're going to be fine.
That we will. All right.
So I put this down as an action item in case you need any kind of action item, David, but I think we're okay. Really, I just want to give a direction to you and Mandy and Robert and Margaret to come up with a proposal for the election that we can present at the February meeting so that everything can be voted
Well,
on.
I actually think, Fred, if I'm not mistaken, the election committee is charged with the responsibility under the bylaws to conduct the election. I don't think we have to come to the board for approval of our procedures. I think we are authorized under the bylaws to conduct the election. That isn't to say we're just going to do it the way we want to and damn the rest of you. But I will report on something back in February. But I don't want the procedures to be, we're already going to have procedures that are going to be the result of the deliberations of a committee of 4. I don't want it to be the result of a deliberation of the committee of 15.
But we only have 12, but
okay.
But I guess I'd have to go back and look at the bylaws. I know that traditionally, when I was election chair, I always brought the proposal to the board and made a motion to have it approved. So I'll leave it to you.
Executive orders. They're all the rage.
Okay. Any other questions or comments regarding the election and any direction you want to give David and the committee? All right.
Don, I do have some more questions.
Go ahead, Don.
I mean, if you're going to have an election in March, you're going to have to at least now announce or make it possible to the public to know the dates or the deadlines or whatever rules that the committee of 4 is going to establish.
Yep. Absolutely right.
We have a question about Cameron. Go ahead.
Mandy's up for re-election in March. Could she still be part of the board, the election committee? Or is it just going to have to be David, Robert, and Margaret?
I think
Robert, are you up for re-election?
Can't be on the committee and run at the same time.
Yeah.
Robert, are you up for re-election?
I'm not sure what my date is.
I wasn't asking about your dating life. I just want to know if you're up
Yeah,
for
right.
re-election.
He's up for election as well. His term expires in 2021 as well. So.
Wow.
All right. Well, then let's talk about that for a couple of minutes because they've always that's how I became the election chair because the first vice chair was always running for election. So then they volunteered me to do it. So that's how I got
What
started.
about Mark Krenzik? He's fair.
Dear God, does he have nothing to do?
I know, but we need more person.
Hey, Jim, how about you?
That's if you need to fill out a committee, I am as benign as can be.
Well, didn't the thing from the city say that members of the election committee do not have to be members of the board?
Is that what it says?
It
I
does.
I didn't see
I
that.
thought-
I didn't know. You've obviously read it more carefully than I.
I
Which
think
is entirely
Literally,
possible.
back to the question, I'm literally happy to serve if you need to fill a spot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
traditionally we've always had people from the board be on the election committee. So
I'm trying to remember. It was like 54 pages, but I thought I remembered something in there. Unless I missed, hey, I'm 73. I don't always get it right. So,
Well, maybe Tracy's friend from OB could be on our committee if it doesn't require that they be members of our board. And I would really like, and what I was going to say is, before I thought of that, was I'm not particularly savvy when it comes to social media. And I think we need somebody who is to be able to get all the publicity. So Margaret, you're not up for re-election, right? So you're going to be on the committee and you are,
Unfortunately.
you are a very good social media person. So I'm going to rely a lot on you in terms of helping us
You
get
just
that out.
tell me what to post, and that's what I normally did with Fred and
Great. Okay.
sure.
Yeah,
So maybe Tracy, your friend might like to be on our committee. I don't know. That's
That would be
probably more,
awesome.
that's more than he's probably willing to volunteer for, huh?
David?
David, I'm willing to be on your committee as a non-board person if you guys decide to let us.
Are you not running?
You think
Cameron,
I
are you not
would?
running?
I'm on all these damn subcommittees.
yeah,
Oh,
I think with Manny running, it might be a
I
little
would-
difficult to have Cameron on the committee.
I would agree with that.
Paul
And
Grimes.
I was looking
Fred,
at
darn you, you're out there.
Eva and Corla are not up for election either. If you would like to help out with the election as well. Those are the only other members I see that don't have, that are not up for re-election.
Paul Grimes on the chat message said he would volunteer.
Oh, yeah, Paul.
oh, I haven't looked at chats. Oh, gosh.
It would be kind of nice to have someone that's not a board member, David.
Well, you might want to verify that I remember this correctly before you go too far down that road.
Yeah.
I didn't see that in the bylaws.
But not because it's a special situation, they made certain rule changes. And so someone who isn't on the board could be a volunteer.
Okay, so Paul.
Let me know if you guys need me.
Oh, Tracy.
It's
Yeah.
in the
So-
bylaws. I can read it real quick. Election subcommittee shall consist of the first vice chair and 3 other board members who are elected by the board at the regularly scheduled October meeting, which obviously pandemic. No member running for election shall serve as a member of the election subcommittee. If the first vice chair is running for re-election, the board shall elect someone to replace him or her as chair. So it has to be board members.
No,
It's-
but what you're
Well, no,
reading
no,
from- you're
I
reading
disagree.
from our bylaws. I'm talking about the city publication on
Yeah.
forward, which I think has different information in it.
Absolutely.
I just don't know the answer to that question.
I don't know the answer either.
So the
If you
people
read
running,
what was sent to us from the city,
Yeah,
it is a special situation and someone not on the board can volunteer.
Is that what it says? Is that what it says, Don?
Yeah, that email was longer than War and Peace, but that's what it does say.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, it's reason.
that's what I remembered of it. Yeah.
My kid's favorite expression is TLDR, too long, didn't read.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you, I'll take your more than your word for it. If that's
It's
what it
right
says.
in the
then-
first couple, it's right in the first couple pages of the
I
reading.
just don't have it. I just don't have it in front of me right
Yeah,
now.
I'm just saying it, you don't have to read through the entire, it's just, if you read through the first page or two, you'll get it.
Well, assuming that's correct, David, the way I see it right now is you have you, Margaret, Jim Hare, and Paul Grimes.
Awesome.
I did put this on there, which I do think we could vote on it if you would like to do that. I put confirm the election committee. So if you want to make a motion to have those people on there, or if you want
Can
to.
we, if someone else is interested, just for counting purposes?
Well, I think that you can add, certainly you can add, I know Marcus helped me count.
I don't want to count, so.
Well, we don't have to, I don't think we have to have, I mean, like Jerry Lola used to help count and he wasn't on the committee.
Right. So
I think we could have counters who aren't on the committee.
Okay.
Yeah, any board member who wants to help count is a trustworthy person as long as they are not running for the election.
That's a lot
And
of
then-
qualifications.
And then will we
Um,
ask that the candidates resubmit their application, or is there just going to be an outreach and ask them if they're still wanting to run based on their prior application?
I think it's all fresh.
No, Mandy, I think what we ought to do, I think it should be all fresh, but I do think we should reach out to all the candidates. Make sure that if anybody who was a candidate wants to resubmit, that they know that there's an opportunity to do that.
Wait a minute. Are you saying that you have to resubmit?
Yes,
If you don't, so you've got to notify all the candidates.
what I just said I was going to do.
Tracy just posted that section, Don, you're right, it's on page 2 of that email from the city, and she posted that in the chat that allows for non-board members to be on that committee. So that's in the chat from Tracy.
Yeah, that's
Boy,
what I thought.
Tracy, you are good at this stuff, aren't you? Wow, this is.
So do we want to make a motion to approve David, Margaret, Jim, and Paul Grimes as the?
I'll make that motion.
Does anybody want to second that?
I'll second.
I got Eva first.
That 4 or 5 on the committee.
That's 4.
4. All right, any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of approving the election committee? Robert?
Don, yes.
Don, yes. Okay, I think that unanimously passes. Perfect.
Hey, Corla, will you help me next week set up a chat, a Zoom? I tried doing it with my kids yesterday and it was a complete fail.
I will, yeah, and if you want to practice or anything, we can just give you a call and stuff.
Great,
Actually,
thanks.
I'm on your committee, so I could also set it up too.
Oh, cool.
Margaret,
Then,
yeah, either way.
yeah,
I don't
okay,
know at all.
cool. I need a lesson in Zoom. Great, all right.
Yeah, Margaret did, when when Corla was gone for one of the meetings, Margaret did it and went flawlessly. So either one can do it.
Great.
All right, great job, great job. The election will be fun. All right, so we're going to move on. The next item is the proposed revisions to the parks master plan. So this is going to be at CPC, and this group headed up by Tom Mullaney is making presentations to the various planning boards. They were at Midway last night and they're here tonight, so they're going to make a presentation to us. So Tom, welcome. We're glad to have you at the Peninsula Community Planning Board, and welcome.
Thank you. Are we ready to go?
I'm ready. Corley, you ready?
So I believe I need to share my screen then, and hold on just 1 second, and we'll get that going. We were all set up here.
And just as a note, while he's doing that, Howard Greenstein is here, and I'm not sure who else is here in support of Tom's presentation. So just to introduce Howard as well.
Yeah, let's see here. So on a second here, Cora. Okay, so we're going to share my screen, which is right here. Should be ready to go. Okay, thanks for your patience. And the slide fills pretty much the whole screen, does it?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. So our group is called the Parks and Recreation Coalition. The short version of that is PARC. And my next slide, there is a small technical problem, but hold on just a second here. So we're made up of former city planners, architects. We have 3 landscape architects who are all also park designers. I didn't write it down here. One of our members is a former manager of the Park and Rec department. So we think we have a very good group of people here. We're here because we love parks. We need parks. Outdoor space and fresh air and breathing room have always been an important part of health and happiness. Now, this last year, we've seen that the pandemic has led to very heavy use of parks. It shows how vital they are for residents' health. We're involved now because the city's proposing a new parks master plan, which is essentially getting rid of the system we've had for 50 years, replacing it with something very different. We think it's unwise. We're proposing what we believe is a better way. Now, to understand what's needed, I want to look at these 2 visions. This is our vision. It is people relaxing in a park, people playing in a park. There's some open room there. There's some green space. I mean, I think it's what people around America see as a park. So this is from the city's plan. And this isn't their only slide, but this is the front slide. Parks Master Plan Vision. So notice that it's asphalt. There's a chain link fence here and a little astroturf area to walk a dog. There's some seating over here. Well, look, is this really a vision for parks for the future? Now, I understand that every community probably has some small area that they could close part of a street and use it, but this could hardly be seen as the vision for the future. Now, even if you could accept that might work for one small park, let's look at where the city's going. The forecast is for our city to grow by 350,000 people by the year 2050. So how could we possibly accept a plan that states it's primarily based on getting more use from existing parks? Now, beyond parks, let's look at the effect on the city's plan over time. Getting more use of parks, we just don't think it makes any sense at all. Let's move on to the next slide and show that. This is the first Parks Master Plan in 50 years. So there's some good parts here. and like focusing on inequities. Let's go back up there. We think that focusing on the longstanding inequities is an important part of the plan, and that we support. But let's look at the serious problems with it. Okay, limited vision. This plan is based on using existing parks, not really providing the needed parks that depend on growth. The limited resident participation, last year, the planning department said that they didn't have time to go and talk to planning groups. Well, my group is a small group of volunteers. We're doing that now. We think there is time. Maybe they didn't want your participation. So I don't see how we can plan for the next 20 or 40 years without involving groups like Peninsula and also the recreation advisories. This plan has some major new parks. Here's one, the citywide park fee. So instead of keeping impact fees in a fund for your community, that money would go into a citywide pot of money. There's really no procedure for how that money would be allocated. The money might come out of your community with no promise of when it would be returned. So if you get a developer who builds 500 housing units in your community and pays in fees, when are you going to get money to put in the needed facilities? This system that they've devised is totally untested. They've acknowledged that there is no city in the United States that we know of that takes a park acreage system and completely replaces it with a point system. Let's go on and see why. So we believe that adding more housing without more parkland is a big mistake. People are going to need parkland more than ever. You know that the city's plan is to not build many more single family homes, but to build condos and apartments. And the residents will need parkland. So we are asking, go back on that, to retain the existing park acreage standard. It's very simple. Right now, the standard is 2.8 acres per 1,000 people. So a little under 3 acres per 1,000 people. That can be met with a few large parks, a bunch of smaller parks. There's lots of ways to get it. Sometimes the school system will release part of their land and say that it's surplus land and they don't need it. The city owns certain pieces of land, and where it's not owned by the city, it can be purchased like other cities around the country. Public engagement, we believe that the public needs to be involved. It's not enough simply to go to the CPC, which is an umbrella group, without going to the individual groups like we're doing now. Funding is obviously going to be a big issue. It's apparent that money is needed to improve existing parks and to get new parks. In some communities where the city owns land, it's going to be less expensive, but still park development costs money. There are communities where the city already owns the land, simply needs the money to add the grass and some swing sets and so forth. They can do that. I think you all know that money can be charged to developers by way of a development impact fee, a DIF. And around the nation, that's how cities are collecting money, and enough money to keep up with growth. That doesn't cover existing deficiencies, but you can get the money attributable to the new development, and we need to do a better job at that. Equity is an important issue. We know that some communities have good parks and some don't. We're proposing steps to correct that. We believe in no neighborhood left behind. So the first item on a list is adequate funding overall. If there's enough money, the communities won't have to fight for every little park improvement and then maybe wait 3 or 4 years for the next small park improvement. We need adequate funding. Now, without getting too far into details, let's look at the last item. sufficient time for public review. The problem last summer and last fall, the city was trying to rush this through before Mayor Faulkner left office. Well, that may be fine for former Mayor Faulkner, but I don't think that really was serving our communities. So the city council fortunately voted in November to take more time, and that's what we're trying to do now. One of the problems with the plan is a complicated point system. It's arbitrary. It's extremely hard to provide points to something that maybe a community doesn't want. Some neighborhoods do not want a restroom, for example. In their view, the points would be 0. Other neighborhoods want a restroom. So the city's plan is to take away the goal of having a standard for parkland and replace that entirely with a point system. So our concern was to be removed from reality, arbitrary. And let me give you an example. My second yellow point here. In their plan, a 10 square foot sign has the same point value as a 1 acre park. Well, is there anyone in your community, given a choice, would rather have a sign than they would if they need a 1 acre park? We think this can be done in a timely manner. Since the last plan has lasted 50 years, taking a few weeks or a few months would not be out of line with this plan. There is no rush with getting something passed. So what we're going to ask the group tonight is to support our approach here. And what we've written out, by the way, Pacific Beach and La Jolla have already met and endorsed our effort, and several other groups have. We think the beach communities are especially important for this reason. Imagine if the 10 communities near you do not have new parks as the population goes up and up and up more. You know where they're going to go? They're going to go to the beach communities. I mean, people already do that, but picture that with another 50,000, 100,000 residents. The pressure on the beach communities would be tremendous. So we're going to ask that you support the improvements. Support the improvements to the Parks Master Plan and Recreation Element recommended by Park, and send a letter of support to the mayor and city council requesting that city staff be directed to work with the community planning groups, the recreation advisory groups, and Park to get input. So thank you. I do want to read this this quote from looks like 50 years ago in the newspaper. A park is unlike any other asset in the city. It's not a building, not a production line, nor a warm breeze. A park is a living, growing thing that will die if the will of the people dies, or it will flourish as much as they want it to. So that is the end of my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Tom, can you get out of the screen share so I can see if anybody has questions? Perfect.
I have a couple comments on this, so I could.
Go ahead, Don.
This is a very fine presentation. The proposed point system is insane. We know in Point Loma that we don't have enough vacant space. We have opportunities for 2 parks right now that this killed master plan would have prevented. We have a pocket park that has been approved at every level, including the park board. It is ready to go to bid. It's been completely designed. And the city is just sitting on it, claiming they don't have any money to send it to bid. And that's just a small 3/4 acres on city-owned land, and it's gone through the process. The other, we all know about Formosa Canyon. That's 5 acres that could be a passive park, educational park, and so forth. Right now, it is supposedly going to be sold by the housing authority to a San Francisco outfit for $800,000. And then the city is going to turn around and loan 900,000 to this San Francisco outfit to build a housing. This could be sold to the city Park and Rec for 800,000, and the money could be found through grants and so forth. So we have two chances that are stalled right now. And I thank Mr. Mulhaney for this presentation.
Okay, thank you, Don. Margaret, go ahead.
Sorry, I fully support this. However, I really wish that it would have gotten presented to the Park and Rec Committee for discussion and approval, and also somehow a formation of a letter that could be sent on our behalf. Right now, we just technically have a motion, but no letter constructed that shows our support and in which direction we want to support this.
Margaret, I would suggest that perhaps a better approach would be to send this to the Park and Rec Committee with a letter or whatever to come back in February to be
Sorry,
voted
that's what
on.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
I meant to say to send it to the Park and Rec Committee. Yes,
I would.
For this board, we need some sort of letter that we can review as far as the ask goes, or the form of support.
You know, we could not only support the sense of that letter or motion, but we could tack on 2 opportunities to have parks here, if only the council.
I agree. I agree completely. I'm all on board. We need some sort of letter to review.
Do we have a formal motion on the floor?
I don't think we have a formal motion yet, Don.
Thank you.
You know, I am, as the chair of the Parks Committee, I would definitely be interested in approving a letter of support for this initiative, because I do agree with Tom's points. Is time of the essence, Tom, or is this going to delay
it is important, because we're asking the planning director to sit down with us. We're asking for support from Todd Gloria's office. We feel that our approach is conceptual. So the other groups that have approved our motion felt that they're just supporting what it says, that the staff would sit down with us, or I guess we don't sit down anymore, would work with us, would work with the recreation advisories to come up with improvements. What those exact improvements are is going to take a lot of time. I mean, we're not asking you to approve anything specific tonight.
Yeah, and I just want to make one comment so that I do think that sending the details to the Park and Rec Committee are important, but part of the problem why I put it straight on the agenda was because I think this is coming up at the CPC meeting next week, and so whether we actually take any specific action, I wanted to be able to give Corla some guidance as to what the sentiment of our board was, if that needed to be expressed next week. So
I think Tom will be on the agenda at CPC next week. Is that right, Tom?
Someone from our group will be, yes.
Yeah, and
That's
so
right.
they will be doing that. And I took a screenshot of his what he's asking of the group, and pretty much the letters there, except you didn't word it right for us to copy it, but we could just copy and paste the majority of that into the letter. Let's see. I've never done a screen share. Let me see if
Yeah. So Corla, I also put it in the chat.
Yeah, I see it in the chat. Oh, go ahead, Lucky.
Yeah,
I was just going to say, well, first off, Tom, I'd have no problem supporting your effort on that at all. I think it's a great way to go. And then to belabor the elephant in the room, until the city deals with this pension issue, and until it gets out of this lost funding thing it's got during its current situation right now, there's not going to be any money hardly at all for anything. Believe me, Park and Rec is going to be one of the first things they're going to try and take a short funding stance on. That's where historically they always go to when they need to find some money someplace. So I'm just saying that while this is all a great idea, from a practical dollar standpoint, with the pension issue is continuing to go further north every year. And we also know they're talking about a loss this year of $150 million at all. I think to be realistic, we have to also I understand the ask, why we want to ask for this, But I think we need to be realistic and also say Parks is not going to have much of anything here for a while. That's my opinion.
Cameron, did you have a comment?
Fred, I was just going to say to kind of move things along, I think what you guys could do is you could vote on a motion to support Tom's group in their efforts. And then at the next meeting, vote on a formalized letter articulating specifically what you support and why you support it.
Margaret?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Have a second.
Second from Don.
Thank you, Don. Further discussion?
Yeah,
I think, oh, go ahead, Don.
If I
Howard
could.
wanted to make a comment. So why don't, I saw his hand. Let Howard make a comment and then Don, you go next. Go ahead, Howard.
Oh, okay, thank you. You asked about the timeliness of this. As Tom and several have mentioned, we are going to CPC next week. CPC will hear it and take a vote, but also one of our biggest concerns is that this was held up at the vote in November by City Council. City Council approved two other components of complete communities. They approved the housing and mobility components, but they denied this for some of the reasons we're talking about. Our concern is that staff may try to bring this back to council fairly quickly. What we're doing is trying to, well, we met with every city council member except one who we'll meet with tomorrow, Marnie van Wilpart. And we're planning to have a meeting with the mayor later in February. We're asking them to basically hold back and direct staff to not bring this back forward to city council without working with the community and our group to get more input and hopefully make some of the changes we're requesting. So not knowing the schedule, we feel that it's important to at least send a message to the mayor and the city council to the effect of this motion, which is hold off and work with us for more input.
Okay, thank you, Howard. Don, go ahead.
Yeah, I think from this meeting that we can get, if the urgency is that Corla can speak at the CPC meeting, I think we can give her enough that she realizes we support the concept. Mandy and I spent the last 3 months trying to get out of Park and Rec, the point system and some other aspects of this. We've gotten nowhere. They don't understand how to replace what's been shot down already. So I really think it needs to go to the committee and we can bring it back in February.
So are you guys are saying that this is going to come up at CPC and they're going to vote and they'll probably come up with a letter. So I am getting the inclination that I can vote for the Peninsula to support that letter from CPC.
Well, I would say that we would support the concept. We would like to have our own letter and deal with it in committee.
So I think that should be our motion, Don. Wouldn't you agree, Fred and Corla?
Yeah, who wants to state the motion?
I'll do it, but well, why don't you, Don? Because you've got the right wording for Corla.
Real quick, what I'm in support of that I would agree at CPC, I mean, is that we are behind requesting that the council wait, that we support the improvements to the Parks Master Plan, but that we want city council to wait and work with the planning groups, the recreational advisory groups, and the PARC for input. We want to sit at the table.
I think I think that you can say that we support the concept. We want to send our own personalized letter that will be voted on by the board in February. I think it's a mistake to rush into this without even having it dealt with at the
letter
level.
And yeah, what do you think, Corla?
Well, they're going to want to vote, and I have to say no. If you guys can't agree on me supporting what they come up with, which is going to be what's in the chat right here.
I don't think the CPC should dictate to us what we do.
Okay, I'm speaking. Let me speak. If we can't agree to support what Tom has placed in the chat, to support the Parks Master, to have them wait and work with the community is what I'm saying. That's what I think is going to come up and how I think the discussion is going to come. And if you can't agree that I can vote yes on that, and that, which would mean we would be included in that letter, then I have to vote no, and we won't be able to support the CPC. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and that was my motion, Corla, is based on his suggestion for you to discuss at CPC.
Lucky, did you have a comment?
Just that I would ask Corla to try and be clear. Sometimes when you use an acronym, their PARC, and not getting it confused with Park and Rec when we say park people, because I kind of, for a minute there, was when you said what you were going to do, I thought you were talking about the city park people as opposed to the actual presentation from PARC that we just had.
Yeah, because that's what's in the chat. Lucky, are you reading the chat?
No, I'm not reading the chat.
Yeah, because that's what's in the chat is PARC.
Okay. Jim Hare, do you got a comment?
Yeah, I get the idea of pumping the brakes, and I get the idea of broader input. I would stop short, my recommendation to our board is stop short of endorsing the particular position of PARC at this point, because I don't know what all is in there. I'm happy with it going back to our own park committee for greater than that. So to the extent that we want to give Corla advice for this particular CPC meeting, the notion of broadening public input, listening to community planning groups, listening to advocacy groups, both park and others, all good. But for us to indicate a support for the particular position or the particular approach to forming a position that's being proposed by Park right now, I don't think we're well enough informed to do that.
I agree. I agree with that statement, Jim. Thank you for that clarification. And I feel that part is important about pumping the brakes, because the MOU was signed the day before Mandy and I were invited to the city council. So I don't want us to be us, meaning all the planning groups and players in this, to not have a seat at that table in the discussion. So that's what, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
And again, the reason why I said it should go back to our own Park and Rec, I agree with you, Jim, is because, again, letters mean everything. Motions, I guess, from past experience is just blown in the wind. So, I mean, a proper letter that's signed by Fred showing whatever this board decides on, support behind this motion, I think goes a long way than just approving a motion. But I do have a motion on the floor.
Okay, but let's see what the motion is. I think I understand the motion, Margaret, to be essentially that.
You do? Okay.
I'm going to say that.
Can you repeat my motion, please? Chair?
Using Don's language, that we're in favor of the
Yes.
concept, and Jim's idea. We're in favor of the concept and the idea of having more community input and more input from the community planning boards. And we saw the presentation. And so because we're supportive of it, we're going to send it to committee for further analysis and to prepare a letter of support.
Now let me ask Corla, because she has to represent us. Is that good, Corla, for you?
I like that. And
you feel comfortable?
Yeah, and I will, that's what I'll bring to CPC, and we'll see what motion comes up. If the motion comes up for them to support some kind of specific thing we haven't discussed, I will vote no, with the reasons that we have all just been discussing. So that's.
Mandy, are you okay with that motion there? Because you're the secretary. Did you get it?
Yes, I did. And then I can pull it off the recording.
And then I have to go back to Don because he's my second.
I agree.
Okay. Okay, good.
So we're here to take a vote now.
Okay.
Is there any more discussion?
All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand.
Don, yes.
Looks unanimous to me. We don't have Robert anymore, but everybody else is on. Perfect. All right, great job. Tom, Howard, thank you for the
Jim
presentation.
Hare's on
Thank
two
you.
screens.
Thank
Did you guys notice that?
Yes, thank you.
Well, I have no, the blank one is on my monitor so I can see all your pictures. And then I'm
Just in case we don't count you twice.
No. God, you wouldn't do that if I tried.
Hey, Jim, I just wanted to say hello and goodbye. Good to see you again.
Howdy, Howie. How are you doing?
We're hanging in there.
Best to everybody. Take care.
Thanks.
Thank you, Howard. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, guys. I'm really happy to have the input before a meeting for a change. It's nice to know.
Thank you. And I don't know if Tom got the actual motion, but if you could forward the final language to him, that would be great.
Sure. I could definitely,
thank
I can take care of that for him tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Howard.
Howard. All right. Yeah, I think it's important. There's a lot of stuff going on at CPC, so it's good to give Corla some advance notice of she can act. All right. Item number 4, Mandy, we're going to turn it over to you regarding a potential letter regarding the Formosa Canyon, I believe.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Give me a minute while I do that. Okay. All right, there we go. All right, can everyone see it? All right, this is a letter that we received on November 12th. We attended the Point Loma Recreational Advisory Group's meeting. They are an advisory group for the city of San Diego. And we were able to unanimously receive a letter of support regarding Formosa Canyon. I'd like to read it out loud, and then we can open it up for discussion. Just high level, you know, we're very familiar with Formosa Canyon. Back in August of 2019, the board voted to recommend to the city that there be no habitational, development at that site. Towards the end of last year, it had gone to city council for the docket, but twice, and it was removed, and it was sent back to staff. And as far as from today, I've not heard or received any notification when they intend to put it back on the docket for the city. So the letter reads, dear members of the City Council, the Point Loma Recreational Advisory Group asks the City of San Diego to reconsider the San Diego Housing Commission's sale of the 5-acre Formosa Canyon parcel located on the southeast corner of Nimitz and Formosa Boulevards to an out-of-town organization for $800,000 and explore other options for the 5-acre site. The Point Loma Recreational Advisory Group voted unanimously to request that the City of San Diego negotiate the sale of the Formosa Canyon to Park and Recreation so that the Formosa Canyon parcels remain a passive park and open space. Thank you for your time and consideration on this matter. Sincerely, Mike Moser. And so we had our meeting in January for the Parks and Recreation Subcommittee, and we voted to approve a letter to be sent to the San Diego Housing Commission, our mayor, Todd Gloria, as well as all of our council members, including our own District 2 council member, Jen Campbell. And the letter is to read regarding that letter of support for Point Loma Recreational Advisory Group. We've included that as an enclosure, and that the Peninsula Community Planning Board is in support of the Point Loma Recreational Advisory Group's letter of recommendation to the City of San Diego Parks and Recreation, advocating for the sale of Formosa Canyon Site 428, located on the southeastern corner of Nimitz and Formosa Boulevards, from the San Diego Housing Commission to the City of San Diego Parks and Recreation. Thank you for your support and time and consideration on this matter. Sincerely, Fred Cosmo. I'd like to open it up for discussion.
If you can get out of the screen share.
Oh,
Mandy.
yeah. Oh, hold on one minute. Stop share. All right. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Okay. Nice presentation, Mandy. Any questions or comments?
Do we back that up with the Point Loma Recreational Advisory Committee letter as well? Do you attach that with it, or just if we vote on this, do we send that separate, or?
No, it is an enclosure in the actual letter. So we'll have our letter of support, and then their letter of recommendation will also be an enclosure in that. Great question.
Margaret, do you have a question?
I do. And I just want to mention that this letter did get sent to those people already on behalf of that committee, to San Diego Housing Commission, City Council. and the individuals on that, on their behalf. I did see an email go out to those individuals on there. They just asked that the Peninsula Community Planning Board support it as well, correct?
Correct.
Yes, they've distributed it to the prior administration, the mayor and the city council office. So this would just be a letter of support for their recommendation.
In addition to.
That is correct.
Jim, you have a comment?
Yeah, I have a sense of the future, so I'm going to ask for one edit to the letter, and that is that the vote count be reflected in the letter.
That the what?
The vote count.
Which one, with the subcommittee or with the final, the vote that we make right now?
The action we will take on this letter, that the count of the vote be included in it.
Yeah, I don't see any issue with that. Yes, that would be more than happy to add.
I think it works in your favor, actually. It's going to look overwhelming.
Okay. Well, thanks for the support, Jim.
Andy, should our letter also be addressed to the Housing Authority and maybe to Nora Vargas, to the county? Should we add anyone else in that list? I mean, it is going to the Housing Authority, but should we add the county to that? That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely open with that. If you want to add Nathan Fletcher is the chair for the County Board of Supervisors, I would definitely be more than happy to include him on that letter as well.
Andrew's here and he represents us to Nora Vargas. So we have.
I think that Andrew stayed here all the way through his first meeting. Come on, let's send it to Nora Vargas.
All right, we'll send it to Nora.
Yes, that sounds great. Sounds great.
Question, does the county have any jurisdiction on a land use in the city of San Diego?
Don, that's a great question. I'm not sure. I don't have the info to weigh in, but let me ask my team and I'll get back to you on that.
Thank you.
He just started, Don. Give him a break.
Lucky question.
Yeah, Mandy, I can't remember. Is the Coastal Commission on that? And do they have a dog in this fight at all too?
That's a good one. Let me, hold on.
It is.
The letter.
The Coastal Commission doesn't have any jurisdiction over this. When they wrote the boundaries for the Coastal Commission, they specifically left the Formosa site out of the everything around the Formosa site is part of the Coastal Commission. But I've actually gone and talked to the Coastal Commission in person, and the Formosa site is not included in those. Sorry to just jump in, but just thought I'd fill you guys in.
Okay.
All right. Do we have a motion to approve the letter or not?
I can make one.
Okay, Margaret makes a motion to approve. And a second?
Don, second.
Don, second. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. We're gonna get an official count here.
Don, yes.
Don, yes, that's one. I got Don, Corla, Mark, Lucky, Mandy, Margaret, Eva. That's 7. All those against? I got 1, Jim Hare. All right, so.
What happened, Jim? I thought I sold you.
Like I say, it'll look overwhelming.
I would vote for it, Mandy, if I could, but as a chair, I can only vote to break a tie, and you won by a landslide, so.
I figured. Thank you. I do appreciate the support. This is something that, you know, we've been working on with the community, and I'm hopeful that we can make some progress in the right direction, especially, you know, with what Tom had said earlier, there is a lack of park space. And as we continue to densify, we need to preserve as much open space as possible to keep a hold of the quality of life that we've come to be accustomed to and enjoy.
Perfect, Mandy. Great
All
job. So if you make those address changes and reflect the 7-1 vote, send it to me tomorrow. And I'll sign it.
Sure. Definitely. I'll be sure to add Nathan and Nora Vargas to our distribution list for sure. All right. And then going forward, the final action item, we do have a community member here, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and move it to a moment. Okay. All right. So the Traffic and Transportation Subcommittee, we were approached by some community members that live along Cape May and Froud. They originally had sent their request. It is a shared intersection. And so a portion of the board, of the neighbors, they approached the Ocean Beach Planning Board. And they, their Traffic and Transportation Subcommittee approved a motion to install a four-way stop sign at Froud and Cape May. And when it went to the main board in November, they asked that we have an opportunity to review that intersection as well and make a motion and then go back to them as well once we've come up with a possible solution for this community member. And so this is addressed to our council member. It's going to Gary Pence. It's regarding Froud and Cape May. The neighbors have had issues with speeding and vehicle traffic, not adhering to the existing stop sign that is there along Cape May. But there's no stop signs along the stretch of Froud between Voltaire and Newport. And that lack of stop signs seems to be encouraging some of the drivers to be speeding in the area and has caused a variety of issues to the community members. So I'm going to go ahead and read out the letter, and then I've also included in the enclosure the testimony and the comments from the community members that live at that intersection, and they wanted to have those comments read to the board regarding their experience. Oh, and then one final thing. Again, they had approached the city 2 times before this to request mitigation and were denied because with the traffic counts, the intersection, it didn't qualify for that mitigation for the city council's traffic engineering portion of the city council. And so that's why it had been denied. And so the only way to make any requests is to come through the community planning board and send a letter to our council member for this type of request. So I'll go ahead and read the letter out loud and then open it up for comments after. Again, this is going to Dr. Campbell, our council member for District 2. It'll also go to Gary Pence. We have enclosed the public comment regarding Froud and Cape May, as well as the traffic mitigations. This is regarding the traffic mitigations along Froud and Cape May. And so this went through the Traffic and Transportation Subcommittee, and we voted to approve this, that the Peninsula Community Board would advocate for the installation of a 4-way stop sign at Froud and Cape May. And additionally, the PCPB would request the City of San Diego Traffic and Transportation Department to consider reviewing the stretch of Froud in between Voltaire and Newport to install traffic calming measures. There are currently no stop signs along this route of 0.44 miles. Thank you for your support and time and consideration on this matter. Sincerely, Fred Cosmo. So the first portion, apologies while I get this letter here. This is from Dan and Casey Finn. This letter is in regards to a new stop sign on Froud Street and Cape May Avenue. Froud Street is unique in the fact that it is the only street that from Abbott to Venice has no stop signs in the stretch from Newport to Voltaire. Because of this, cars reach dangerous speeds that cause accidents and numerous close calls. It is pretty obvious that people divert to the street to speed and avoid stop signs. The lack of stop signs in the stretch makes no sense, and comparable neighboring streets such as Guizot have 3 stop signs. We hope that the community group can assist in getting a sign placed so that Froud can become a safer street. From Eileen Ward and Lorenzo Beck. This letter is in response to the dangerous vehicle speed levels occurring in our neighborhood on Froud Street. My husband and I have lived for decades near the corner of Froud and Cape May and have seen the situation get worse throughout the years due to a variety of contributing factors. Not surprising, higher speed levels are evident during morning and evening commute times, but in addition, the continuing draw to the Sunset Cliffs area has caused great concern to street safety. We see primarily young adults who are departing Ocean Beach after sunset speed down Froud to return to Highway 8 using the neighborhood as a thoroughfare. This is during the worst visibility of the day, dusk. Broad Street residents have become vigilant to unsafe drivers when either walking, cycling, or getting into or out of our parked cars due to speeding cars. Broad Street runs down, one moment, downhill prior to the intersection of Cape May, causing additional speed levels. At the northwest and southwest corners of Froude and Cape May, red curbs are present to help visibility, but being able to see the approaching cars is not the problem. It is the speed of the now apparent vehicle. I have experienced many close calls when coming up Cape May to Froude to make the left turn. We have also watched and heard, due to the underbelly of the car hitting the pavement, speeding cars become airborne at the next intersection located at Froude and Long Branch. Recently, my husband and I, as well as our neighbors, have become aware that there are no stop signs on Froude from Newport to Voltaire, while similar streets have 3. I was quite surprised since I believe this causes an issue with pedestrian safety. My husband and I affirm that having a stop sign at the intersection of Froude and Cape May will make a big difference for keeping both pedestrians and other drivers safe from the hazardous speeding behavior of others. Thank you for looking into this issue, and thank you for your time and effort in keeping Ocean Beach a safe family neighborhood. And then the next one we have is, oh, one moment. It's from, we have 2 more. Larry Nenow. As a resident and homeowner of 2076 Froude since 1985, I have seen a lot of changes. Spay war has increased traffic dramatically, and there are children all over the neighborhood. Going north, the Froude Street actually narrows at Brighton, and I hear cars bottoming out all of the time at the dip there. A stop sign is definitely needed there, not only for the safety of the children walking to Ocean Beach Elementary, but slowing down the drivers damaging their cars. Thank you for your consideration. And then Lonnie is the final one. Hello, my name is Lonnie, and I live at the corner of Froude and Cape May. My neighbor recently let me know about his efforts to get a 4-way stop to put in at the intersection. I have thought a 4-way stop at the Froude and Cape May intersection would be a smart idea for a while. I witness near misses and odd events on a very regular basis. Visibility crossing Froude is not great, and cautious drivers must inch quite a ways into the road to see crossing traffic. Drivers also have a tendency to catch a bit of speed coming down the hill. High speed and low visibility is not a good combination. I hear cars scraping the bottom of their cars as they hit the dip and the hill and honking at all hours. Additionally, this neighborhood has lots of children, including my own, who play outside nowadays, and I think a 4-way stop would make for a safer environment for them. Thank you for your work on the planning board and taking the time to consider my thoughts. And that's Lonnie. All right. All right, hold on one moment. All right. And then Tracy, I see in the chat, she brought in the scoring of the city of the 12 out of the possible 50 points that she got back from the city. Thank you for sharing that. I'd like to go ahead and open it up to the board for discussion.
Margaret, go ahead.
Paul, have you done research on that area? Because I know you're really good at doing that and providing some input.
Yeah, I think Andy's covered pretty much what we're discussing. As far as the street not having stop signs for significant.
So is somebody listening to music?
Not me.
Hear it.
Okay. I don't think it's lucky.
Hope it's not anyone singing in the shower, no.
I can't figure it out. I'll work.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Well, Mark looks super happy.
He's jamming out. All right. Well, is there any other conversation or inputs that anyone wanted to make?
Hey, Mark, are you listening to the music? Okay. Somebody's looking, okay.
It was Paul.
All right, good. All right, I have Jim here. Can you do anything about him, Corla?
Honest to God, it's not Paul now. Mandy, I'm gonna mute you. Everybody's muted but me and Fred. Fred, maybe it's you. Unmute. I muted you, Fred, unmute. Fred, you need to unmute. There you go. Now go.
All right, did we find the person?
Might have been you. I don't know. I can't tell. I muted everybody. And
All right, all right, all right, we're done. All right, sorry about that. All right, Jim, are you up?
Mindy, did you, this stretch of Froud is on the border between Peninsula and Ocean Beach planning areas. Did you say that they have already considered this in Ocean Beach? What's the status on the other side of the line?
The Traffic and Transportation Subcommittee for Ocean Beach has approved this mitigation as well. They are just, the main board pushed it back. They wanted to get inputs from the Peninsula Community Planning Board before they made their official position as well.
Can we push it back?
It's a collaborative effort.
Can we push it back and have them tell us what they want to do? The only reason why I'm saying it is to the extent that a stop sign is going there, it'll be a far greater inconvenience in Ocean Beach than it will be in Peninsula. And so I'm happy in the spirit of working with a neighboring community to be supportive. Otherwise, my standard line of not wanting to go against traffic engineering principles for a lot of what I believe to be good, valid safety reasons come into play. But I wouldn't stand in the way of a neighboring planning board taking up something and resolving a neighborhood problem that I presume most of these residents live on the Ocean Beach side of the street. So,
Tracy, can you enlighten us on Ocean Beach view?
Yeah, so the subcommittee, we were almost unanimous. There was one person though who actually didn't vote for any of it. The reason they didn't vote for it is because she actually wanted to look at traffic calming measures for the entire street and not just a little fix it, a stop sign. She had recommended flashing beacons at that location instead of just a stop sign. And then the planning board themselves, they wanted to look at what you guys were going to say, of course, because there's a history of you guys not wanting to do stop signs. So we didn't really want to move forward until we knew what you guys were going to do. But there was also just a concern of, Frood is, one of those streets that has been heavily trafficked lately. And there was a thought that there could be other ways of calming this traffic that weren't necessarily a stop sign, flash beacons or, something else or, something that shows the speed limit that people are driving or what, whatever. Those were just some of the, the ideas is people just kind of wanted to see what else could be done. But there is an agreement though, that there isn't any four-way stops between that strip. And I mean, it is kind of a thoroughfare. I mean, it's a freeway right now. So it just seemed a little unbalanced, but that was the board in general.
Any other comments?
Well, I was going to ask Dan, is there anything that you wanted to share in addition with the group? He's one of the neighbors, and my understanding is it's not just Ocean Beach neighbors, it's several neighbors along that intersection that feel the same way. I'd like to have Dan maybe share his experience.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I guess if we're talking about the side of the street Can you hear me all right? The
Yeah, we can.
We got you.
of those letters, 3 of the neighbors would be on the Point Loma side, which I mean, I honestly didn't figure myself in Point Loma or Peninsula side. I always thought I was in Ocean Beach, but when we built the house a while ago, we ran into that. But like what they've been saying, it's kind of the fact that it has no stop sign from Voltaire to Newport is really unique in the neighboring street. Guzot has 3 signs, and then they put a 1 sign in on Cable not too long ago. But it's taken the brunt of all this new traffic that has been going through the point, especially due to the increased traffic to the Sunset Cliffs at sunset. And people are either through apps or whatever, they're diverting that way because they know they can fly through and get that speed going, not having to stop. So I've seen it in the decade I've lived there, but I've seen the increase to the point where I wanted to just have something done about it. And the other neighbors were at the same kind of breaking point. And I know that I think it was Tracy who got the point system. I don't think the city is factoring enough different. I know they're talking about no accidents at that exact intersection, but I've personally been at several accidents within, half block to and from that intersection on Stroud Street that was because of that intersection. I don't know if they contributed to have to be exactly in that intersection, but I mean, through the alleys and, several have been injury accidents too. So I'm not exactly sure where they get in their data or how that works, but to say that there's been no accidents, maybe not at the exact spot in that intersection might be true, but if you just go a half a block either direction, there's been several accidents caused by that intersection or the neighboring one. So we're just hoping some type of mitigation. I thought the stop sign would be the cheapest and the easiest way to make that happen. And I just hoping some kind of mitigation can happen. And I guess that's all my thoughts. Thanks.
All right. Well, Dan, thank you. We appreciate you attending and sharing. Corla?
Well, this has been here before, not this exact thing, but I can support parts of this letter, but I don't support recommending a stop sign anywhere in the city. It seems to me, number one, that the city's already has some kind of a point system, and I feel the neighbors' pain. I get it. I got people running by my house. I got fishermen parking in front of my house and leaving their cars. And, I understand your pain, guys, but I could be willing to support asking the city to reevaluate, not just evaluate, but reevaluate, because it seems like they've already done that. But I won't support the letter as written for us specifically to request a 4-way stop sign.
All right. Cameron, do you have a comment?
I was just going to say, you could always approve a letter pending concurrence from the OBPB saying that you support some sort of traffic mitigation or traffic study pending concurrence from the Ocean Beach Planning Board. For you, Jim, that would throw it back on them and have to get back at that route of it. But that might be an easy win for all parties involved.
I do.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that Lucky, do you have a comment? You're
Unmute.
muted, Lucky. You got to unmute yourself.
There we go. Now we're back. I have a little conflicted point of view on it in that I live on Lotus Drive, and Lotus Drive is the cut down street to get from Chatsworth or down to Vaughn's or Home Depot. So I live on a street that's originally I thought was purely residential, but turns out it's quite a thoroughfare. So I do understand people's problems with that. Having said that, I must also admit that I'm a frequent user of Stroud when I want to get to Newport. So I understand that from that standpoint. In fact, my real estate agent, when he was showing us around the community, said, don't ever go down to Sunset Cliffs. Always turn off here and go and take this down if you want to go into OB. So that was years ago. That was what that was about. So, but I guess at the end of the day, what I'd have to come down with, in spite of my like to use it, is that I'd like to respect people's local desires as much as possible. And I'm not a great stop sign fan myself, but I would certainly like to have one on my little street. So I would be inclined to support this. Thank you.
And Is the group, well, I guess we have to have a motion or something like that. I don't know if the group has a consensus as to whether they want to ask for a stop sign or ask for a reevaluation of the intersection. Do you have a comment?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment. You know, this group, the board has actually approved quite a few stop signs throughout our community. Some of the elements that we've approved, stop signs were safe routes to schools. And I'm looking here and I see that, you know, Ocean Beach Elementary is just two blocks away from this intersection. And sometimes we approve these too late and somebody gets hurt. If you go to Google Earth and look at that intersection, there's a woman in a stroller trying to cross the intersection of Froud. So you see there's people there with babies and I agree that Froud is a through street, and anything we can do to perhaps slow it down based on the neighbors that live there, I would be in favor of saying, you know, I would support a stop sign there because we have in the past. And if we use safe routes to schools and if we use as traffic calming and we don't wait for somebody to get hurt or an accident to happen, we're being proactive.
Mandy, do you think it's about time for you to make a motion?
I would like to make a motion to approve this letter. I feel like the community has come out, they've done their diligence, they've gone to the OB planning board, Dan has attended, he's brought, you know, the comments along with his neighbors of their experience. And I would agree with the thoughts of, yeah, while it may inconvenience people to have a stop sign there, and it's not a favorable method or mitigation, we have our community members coming here and saying that there's a public safety issue here and they're wanting relief, they're wanting our support because this is their only avenue. And so I would really like to see a motion of support for this letter to provide relief to the neighborhoods. You know, as it stated earlier, stop signs are a very cost-effective mitigation. If the city feels like, again, that it, for whatever reason, if it doesn't work or it becomes a nuisance, the city can easily remove that. They have come here before our board and they've also come before the Ocean Beach Planning Board. I think it would be a great opportunity for us to support the community and their efforts of traffic safety.
Okay.
I'll second.
I was gonna second it based on Mark sold me because we have approved that and we don't know we're gonna get a stop sign. This is just a letter of recommendation. They will go ahead and they're going to, I'm sure, reevaluate it some more, and we're not guaranteed we'll get a stop sign, but there'll be definite some sort of safety and after they receive this letter, I feel. So Mark, you sold me and I'll second the motion.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mandy and a second by Margaret. Further discussion, Jim?
Thank you. From the standpoint of public safety and everything, I have no means of justifying a support for a stop sign. And what we experience in this community, to the extent that stop signs are ever effective at all, they're effective in slowing and diverting traffic. And to the extent that they divert traffic, we continue to play this game where we place like chess pieces around the community. Whoever is loud enough to get in and talk to us and get a stop sign there, then they create some issue or a desire elsewhere for more stop signs. And it's bad environmentally, it's bad from a public safety standpoint and that. So I am the world's big curmudgeon on not approving stop signs. That said, I will not stand in the way of somebody who is on the border between these two communities getting a stop sign if the general consensus in the other community is that they want it, and their traffic committee seems to be advocating in favor of that as well. So not for any good logical reason, but just in the spirit of community support, I will support the motion for the letter on this time, and don't ever use it as a precedent for me again.
I remember how you vote every time, Jim. Paul, do you have a comment?
Yes, Jim, I understand your position on that, and I tend to agree. However, I did understand you to say that stop signs are diversion items that move traffic onto other streets. And that's exactly what's happened in this situation, except the street that's being diverted to is the one we're asking to put a stop sign on.
Right, no,
The streets on the 3 parallel streets on either side, including Sunset Cliffs, they have a lot of traffic where they already have stop signs. People are using the street as a thoroughfare because they don't want to go and get on Ebers and have to go through stop signs, or go with stoplights, or go through Gazoo, which does have stop signs.
Fair enough.
There needs to be something to even this situation out so it doesn't get used as a shortcut thoroughfare for speeding traffic. Sorry.
Thank you, Paul. Any other comments?
Yeah, Don, please.
Oh, okay, Corla, then Don.
Yeah, having said what I said, listening to Mark and Jim, I might be just changing my mind here, so you playing me over.
Corla, you're so soft. All right, Don, you're up.
We've got a request from a neighboring planning board. It's we spent a lot of time on Froud. I think we all know that Froud has its problems and dangers. I fully support the OB planning board in making this request.
Okay, thank you, Don. All right, I think we're probably ready to vote then. So all those in favor of Mandy's motion to support the letter, please raise your hand.
Don, yes.
Don, yes. So I've got Jim, Mandy, Margaret, Corla, Mark, Lucky, Eva, and Don. So I think that's an 8-0 unanimous vote. There you go, Mandy. 8-0.
Thank you. I really do appreciate.
I'm okay if you put that in the letter too, if you want to say we approved it 8-0.
8-0. All right, I'll jazz it up. Maybe the city will notice.
Okay.
I do want to thank everyone for this. Again, you know, with having the community members come out, and I know we're not traffic engineers, but they've done their diligence. They've come. There's a need, and I really think we're doing a great thing by offering some sort of relief in the form of traffic safety. Thank you.
All right. Well, that's good. So we're sort of towards the end here. We just have committee reports. We've gone over a lot of things like parks and stuff, but if there's any committee that wants to make a report, raise your hand. We'd be happy to. Maddie.
I just wanted to bring to the attention with Sarah's resignation to the board, the numbers for the Traffic and Transportation Subcommittee are off. So I'm asking to see if there are any other board members that would like to join so that we can continue to keep our committee, our community member participation. With that, currently myself and Margaret and Eva are on the subcommittee as board members, and we have Nicole Burgess, Matt Shalis, Paul Grimes, and as committee members. And so we do need to have plus one board member. So I would like to extend an invitation to any of the other board members who would be interested in being a part of that subcommittee so we can keep our community participation.
Well, Mandy, I think I mentioned, if you need somebody, I mean, those community members are great. So if you need somebody, I will serve on the committee, unless somebody else wants to do it.
Yes, if that's something, you know, and it most likely will be only a few more months. You know, we're going to be having a transition here with the election. So hopefully we won't need to take up any more of your time, but I would appreciate that so we can continue to have the maximum amount of community participation.
Right, you're on all the committees. You're ex officio on all the committees, so you have to show up.
Okay. Lucky, do you want to volunteer?
No, she answered. Corla said what I wanted to say.
Okay, well then, do you want to volunteer to be on the committee, Lucky?
Yes, I do.
Okay, good.
I think that the rigors of chair are enough to put on you, and that I would be glad to serve on that committee.
Well, thank you. Lucky.
Thank you very much, Lucky. I do appreciate that, and I look forward to you contributing to the discussion in traffic and transportation. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, any other committees that want to make a report? No? Carla?
Not really a committee, just a treasury report. There's been no activity, so we still have our same balance. And I got caught up at the last minute trying to get everybody in the meeting, but we got about $657, I think. So that's all.
And I don't know what our expenses are, but I mean, I guess if we needed a few dollars for the election, then, you know, that's what we have.
I think we have enough. We need to spend that before the end of June, so I can get reimbursed, you know, so whatever we spend, we have to put into the city in one invoice now for our fiscal year. So.
All right, well, so if Marty can know that they have, I don't know, they needed a few, $200 or $300, and we certainly have the money that we can put
No,
towards
we
it.
have the money. Yeah, no, we've got money.
Yeah, perfect. Any other committees that want to make a comment?
I would just like to make one more. The traffic and, sorry, the next Parks meeting will be on February 4th. Due to the discussion earlier, we would need to host a meeting to approve any potential letter for Tom's initiative with the park group. So that meeting will be on Thursday, February 4th at 6 p.m. I'll be sure to provide a meeting link in the agenda within the appropriate amount of time.
Perfect. Thank you, Mandy.
Thank you.
Okay. I think that brings us to a close. So got a motion to adjourn? I'll take that as a motion to adjourn. From so there we go. We're gone. We're done. Thank you, guys. That was a good meeting. Very productive. Very productive. We covered a lot of things, and I really appreciate everybody's contribution.
Nicely.
And it's only 8:30. Woohoo!
Woohoo! Happy New Year, everyone.
Congrats, Mandy. Thank you, Fred. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care.